By this time, I know there's some of you guys out there who are sick and tired of hearing about that Kirk Cousins trade rumor, right? We're 0-3. We could still potentially have a shot at making the playoffs, even though it is a very long shot. But there's been these rumors swirling around of the Vikings potentially trading Kirk Cousins. Not now, but if we start, say, 1-5 or 0-6 to start the season, it might be time to start looking forward to the future. Kirk Cousins on the final year of his contract. We would have to waive his no-trade clause, so yes, I do understand that, okay, that whole aspect of it. We've talked about Kirk Cousins maybe going to the Jets because Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles, maybe helping their season out a little bit better, Kirk is definitely miles better than Zach Wilson. We've talked about the Cardinals or the Tennessee Titans, but there's a dark horse team that could potentially end up trading for Kirk Cousins. That team is the Atlanta Falcons, right? They're in an NFC South division that now they actually have a chance to win that division, which would be phenomenal for not only Arthur Smith, but that in the organization as a whole, and then make a deep playoff push. But with Desmond Ridder at the quarterback, I'm not so sure that's possible, right? I think Desmond Ridder has a long ways to go. He's a decent backup quarterback at most. I don't see him as a franchise quarterback at all, at least in this point. He makes too many dumb decisions. I was at the Packers-Falcons game. There was a couple throws I was like, well, what are you throwing at? Like, it made no sense to me. So there could be a possibility that Kirk Cousins gets traded to the Atlanta Falcons, and currently the Falcons are 2-1. Not bad, right? And they're in a wide open NFC South. Arthur Smith is now in his third season as the head coach of Atlanta, and after the team didn't finish with a winning record in either of his first two seasons with the franchise, the pressure is now on him to lead the Falcons to the playoffs this season. Now, starting under center for the Atlanta Falcons right now is second-year quarterback Desmond Ridder. And in 3 games this season, Ridder has completed 62.5% of his passes. He's only thrown for 2 touchdowns, and he's averaging less than 200 passing yards per matchup. That's not great at all. And on Sunday, the Falcons suffered their first loss of the season with the Detroit Lions handing them a 20-6 defeat. Now, in that game, Desmond Ridder only threw for 201 yards. He didn't throw any touchdowns, and, he was sacked 7 times. That's brutal. That is a bad game, especially when you have receivers like a Drake London or a Kyle Pitts who basically hasn't been used at all this entire season. At that Packers-Atlanta game, it was Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith reached in the end zone. Like, not one ball, I believe, was thrown to Kyle Pitts. That's worrisome, okay? You have to start worrying about that. Now, over the next few weeks, if he continues to struggle and Atlanta is still in contention to win the season's NFC South title, it wouldn't be shocking if they look to make a quarterback change. Now, given how important this season is for Smith in terms of his future with the Falcons, he might be more willing to convince the team to make a major splash at that quarterback position instead of just turning to the team's current backup, Taylor Heinicke. However, we have seen Taylor Heinicke in the past with the Washington Commanders and what he's been able to do and how he's able to bring this team together and really willed his team to victory. I love his motor. He's a really, really good backup. Not a starter by any means, but Kirk Cousins is definitely better than Taylor Heinicke, and we've already seen why that is the case. But Heinicke would be a decent option, but if you want to make a deep playoff run, I don't know if Taylor's the guy to really do that, okay? Now, if Atlanta ends up wanting to make a trade for a new single caller before the year's deadline on October 31st, Cousins could be the guy they target. Unlike the Jets, the Falcons have the draft capital to acquire the Vikings quarterback as they currently have selections in the first 3 rounds of the 2024 NFL Draft. Now, in terms of a fit for Atlanta's offense, Smith is the same guy who restructured Ryan Tannehill's career when the two were members of the Tennessee Titans. Now, if the Falcons were able to land Cousins in a trade, one would assume that Smith would essentially use him in a similar way to how he did with Tannehill in Tennessee. Now, yes, Ryan Tannehill, not good at this point in his career, but when Arthur Smith was with the Tennessee Titans as their offensive coordinator, right, we got to see a little bit of some stardom, some star power out of Ryan Tannehill, and that is because, yeah, they had not DeAndre Hopkins at that time. I mean, they had A.J. Brown at that time, so they had some stellar receivers, and you look at Atlanta, it's kind of a similar type of offense. You got a really good backfield in Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, and then you also look at the outside, you have Drake London, Kyle Pitts, you still have Jonnu Smith. I mean, Atlanta's offense is set up real nicely, especially with the offensive line. I think Kirk Cousins would fit in really nice with the Atlanta Falcons, so it would make some sense that they would go ahead and trade for Kirk Cousins if they're still in contention to win that NFC South division. And look, this is only possible, or this is only a rumor, because it's not going to happen right now. We're not going to trade Kirk Cousins right now when there's still some hope that we could go on a little bit of a run, maybe put up some fight, maybe put up a fight to win the division, even though it's kind of far stretched at this point, or even just make the playoffs. So at this point, it doesn't make sense. But again, we start 1-5, we start 0-6. Start looking at that Kirk Cousins trade rumors as being one that is most likely to happen, and it could be anywhere, right? We talked about the Jets trying to acquire Kirk Cousins, the Arizona Cardinals, the Tennessee Titans. I heard about the Las Vegas Raiders, even though Jimmy G, I don't think that's going to happen. But the Falcons, hey, that makes a lot of sense. So let me know what your thoughts in the comment section below. I know we've talked about this before, but I want to hear from more of you guys on what the Vikings need to do in order to win some more ball games, or if we do start 1-5 or 0-6, does this trade make sense? Drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It'd be much, much appreciated. Have a great rest of your night, folks, and Skol Vikes.